16 United States Marines arrested for alleged crimes involving human smuggling to drug-related offenses. Officials say the arrested Marines have not yet been charged with any crime. They are being detained, they are being questioned, and they expect charges to be filed possibly early next week.
We know so few details. Here to talk more about these arrests, Attorney Vikas Bajaj. Vic, great to see you as always.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Good morning.
I want to shed some light, too, the way a lot of these Marines were arrested.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people are talking about how so many of them were arrested in front of hundreds of their comrades. They were in formation, taken into custody. What does that symbolize? I mean, that sends a clear message to the other Marines.
It sends a deterrent effect and a message. What it says to everybody out there is, hey, if you have your hand in the cookie jar, beware. We're watching you. We're surveilling your communications. People may be telling us some things that you're doing wrong, so just don't do those wrong things anymore, because you're going to be the spectacle, and you're going to be in the brig, and then you're going to face criminal charges. This is an extraordinarily symbolic type of an arrest. We see it also in the civilian area, when we have very public search warrants, public search warrant executions, public raids, and then, of course, we have what we would call, usually on the eastern seaboard, the perp walk, when you have an individual who's in handcuffs. In very high media areas, Los Angeles, New York, you would actually see them walking into and outside of the jailhouse. There's a specific reason for that, and that's not for media ratings. That's to let everyone in the public know that if you're doing something similar, this could be you. And this is a very strong message that needs to be sent throughout law enforcement, especially, and in our military. I have seen a tremendous amount of cases in our federal court and state courts now of very good former law-abiding, young, easily influenced Marines, and people with the Department of the Navy as well, who have been cajoled and convinced to do things that are just so naive when we look back at it for the almighty dollar. We have some individuals who are getting involved in trafficking large quantities of kilogram quantities of fentanyl. These are people who live in San Diego, who are in the armed forces, who may be 18 years old and have the ability to cross the border freely. Now, of the hundreds and thousands of dollars of the actual street worth of these fatal narcotics, these individuals are paid $500 or $1,000. Again, these are not individuals who are 50 or 60 years old with extraordinary experience in the armed forces. These are just recent high school graduates who are being talked into doing things that are horrible for their outcome. Not only the prison sentence, but of course the dishonorable discharge, which makes them infinitely unemployable.
Well, we know so few details, if any, about what led up to it, how they found out about this activity. But to be pulled out at roll call, this is a federal crime we're talking about here. And we know that the feds usually, if they come after you, they've got something and they're confident. What does that tell you about this case?
It tells us that they've done their due diligence, and we've seen the reporting come out that this is really dovetailing in a consequence of 2 prior arrests. Well, this is part and parcel in a very good way of looking at federal investigations. And I put military investigations under the umbrella of federal investigations. And what it is, it's a chase for information. So there is a large carrot that is hung over any suspect's head when they're interrogated by federal officers or military personnel. And that would be, if you are good about this interview, if you tell us everything that you know, we'll go easy on you. And of course, if it gives rise to more indictments or more charges or others that are arrested, we'll give you that benefit as well. This is why you see a real double-edged sword in federal prosecutions. This is why in federal prosecutions, more so than in state prosecutions, we have defense attorneys attacking the witnesses to say, well, you're only saying this to save, you're singing for your supper, to save your liberty. Because there is a statutory allowance on the federal side to give credit to those who cooperate with law enforcement. So again, an extraordinarily astute question. And the answer to that is it's symbolic, it's a deterrent effect, and it's really giving everyone, and potentially those who have not been arrested or are not under investigation, an opportunity to come forward.
Now, but why no charges yet?
Well, this would also be a difference between civilian prosecution in federal court downtown and military prosecution. We have 3 different levels, of course, of a court-martial. Some deal with just slaps on the wrist, and then a general court-martial can be up to a death penalty, prison, or excuse me, a sentence and a punishment. So this is a very serious set of circumstances. Because we're dealing with the military, we don't have the mandated appearances in front of a federal magistrate within a day or two, as we would normally see in federal court in our beautiful downtown. Now, what is happening now? We have at least 18 people who are in the brig. They are being questioned. You can bet your bottom dollar that each one of them are being segregated and talked to and given that same carrot. If you're good to us, if you give us all the information, we'll go easy on you, and maybe you'll have a chance at a future. So each one of these individuals will give rise to more information and potentially more charges coming down the pipeline. I fully predict that there will be an extraordinary amount of collateral convictions and charges and investigations that come about as a result of this one.
All right, Vic Bajaj, always great to see you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
really
you so
appreciate
much.
it. It's my
probably
pleasure.
Important too also to point out that none of those who were arrested, we're told, had been supporting military operations
that's right.
along the U.S.-Mexico border, as the president had a lot of our Marine Corps personnel there.
That's right, and
so
that's an extraordinarily important part to bring up, because that would be a real death knell if these were individuals who are helping stop individuals come across the border, but they were in fact aiding and abetting, again, very young individuals that probably didn't know what was behind door number 2.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you, Vic.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it.
My pleasure.